I'm Dwayne Brummett. He's Ali Alberigo, and this is the School Owner Talk podcast. Hey, Dwayne Brummett here with Ali Alberigo. Ali, nice to see you again this week, sir.
Yeah, nice to see you as well. It's always great to see you. And I have my good friend is in my area, but we've had a hard time connecting. Is John Gaston? He's also originally from Illinois, right? Now he lives in Tampa. But
what's he doing up near you?
He's training with the Gracies in Jersey somewhere. So he's training with one of the top Gracie students. So
okay.
He's amazing. He's in his 60s and always pushing himself and competing and grappling and on the mat. He's just an inspiration. People like that really motivate me.
Yeah, he does not slow down.
No, and he's writing his second book now, and all this stuff. He's a good guy. So when he hears this, hopefully he'll know how I feel about him and what I think about him.
I think he knows.
Yeah, it's true. So we have a good call today, and something that we talked about in the past, and something that is, I think it's more relevant now than ever, right? Is that, finding out what we're all about. Like, what is your unique strategic purpose, right? Like, rather than your USP, we switched that years ago, unique selling proposition to your unique strategic purpose. Like, what makes you who you are, brand identity and all the things that go along with this. And we had a product that we sold a while back that was for people to teach them this, but we're going to share it over the course of maybe 1 or 2 or 3 podcasts, right? So this is part of it.
Yeah, and it's really, building a strong brand or building a strong identity for your martial arts school. And I would agree, in this competitive, world of the martial arts, we really need to stand out. We need to be have a strong and recognizable identity, something that makes us different. And I know that I liked how you've always talked about this topic with regards to when you've asked people what is their, at the time, what separates them, what's their unique selling proposition. But since we've switched it to unique strategic purpose, it makes you stand out. And they go, oh, well, and no offense to Taekwondo stylists when I say this, but you've used it as the example because it's an easy example. Well, I teach Taekwondo.
Right.
Well, Taekwondo can be your brand, but the problem with that is it's not your unique selling proposition in totality. Although I will say it is, one of the higher search terms, for karate is Taekwondo. So it can kind of be a part of your brand, but it is not necessarily just your unique strategic purpose, because that's something that's totally different. So, what we're going to talk about is we're going to explore obviously the essential elements to be, building that strong brand that will resonate not only with your current, clients, but then also your potential students in the future as well.
Yeah, and remember I think we spoke in Atlantic City. It's got to be like some 10 plus years ago, and we did a seminar for school owners.
Yep.
And we asked them. I remember asking, like, what is your brand? And we went around the room, and people said Taekwondo, Wing Chun, karate, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Kung Fu, and we went on to say like that's your system, but not necessarily your brand. So like for example, let's say we had a room filled with all Taekwondo people. How do they separate themselves from each other? Because they're supposedly teaching the same brand, right? So finding that uniqueness about who you are and what you do is very, very important.
It is. And I'll tell you, the statistics have changed a little bit, but a little bit over, at least 25% of businesses fail within the first year. And so, while there are, obviously a number of causes, for that, the number one mistake, I think, is, going into business for the wrong reasons, not having the focus of what your business is all about.
Yeah.
And now I know, like, when we first started, it was, I did not write down, I did not know that this was my brand when we
Right.
first started, although I knew this is what separated us. So for me, I knew that I wanted to, help young kids gain confidence so that they could be better human beings. And I did that through the martial arts. And what was different about our program, in totality, was I was a Christian martial arts school, and so there
Right.
wasn't a Christian martial art school in our town. At least not, and I'm not saying that the other school owners or whatever weren't Christian. That's not what I mean. But
Right.
they weren't putting that as the forefront in their advertising, on their on their floor, in their philosophies,
Yeah.
on how they were teaching. So it was very evident. Now, the nice thing was I had a differentiator, my brand, my unique strategic purpose, by accident.
Right.
And
Right.
along with and because we have a personality driven business, along with my personality and the people that I was able to surround myself with, it made a successful go at it before I even knew anything about a USP.
Yeah, and it's interesting though. I would have to say, even with you, we have to drill down even further because
Yep.
I don't know necessarily like not all of your clients are Christian, right? You have Muslims, you have people from different faiths and religions. So I
Yes.
don't think your brand is the Christian portion. I think that's part of how you come across building your brand from Christianity, but your brand is really about all the things that hopefully most religions are actually teaching, like love and kindness and respect and all that stuff and family and all that's what that's what makes TriStar Martial Arts what it is that portion of that brand.
Right. Agreed. Totally. But I didn't understand that at the time. Like I didn't know. So those philosophies or those uh, those characteristics
Right.
of Christianity were it was under the overarch of Christianity, but I just didn't know how to explain it at the time. You know what I
Right.
mean? Now it's a little
Yeah.
bit different where, I understand that in and of itself is not the brand, but it was at the time, at least in my head. Does that kind of make sense?
It totally makes sense. And I'm actually, interestingly enough, over the last 3 weeks, I've been working with my clients on that. And I've been asking them to go through a series of different exercises. Like one is a partnership between two individuals, and they run a classical kung fu school. So I'm like, what makes your school unique? What makes you different than other schools? And I say, don't explain it by you're being better, you're more efficient, you're more deadlier art or whatever. I said explain it about what you do and what you're all about that makes you different, like what separates you from the rest, right? And the other thing was how do we get that across in like not a mission statement but an elevator speech in a very small amount of time with a small amount of words? How do we explain who we are and what makes us unique, that unique strategic purpose, and what makes you better than, let's say, or equally as good as sports or other things? And that's a hard thing for most people to put into words.
Yeah, and look, and we're going to give some practical things for the listeners to kind of drill down for themselves as we go on, with this podcast, and
Yeah.
obviously if it's part 2 or part 3, but the questions also is, why should people buy, from you in the first place,
Right.
and what really is the real reason that you're in business?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
I knew for me, karate, like the karate self-defense moves and I always explained it this way back when we first started, was just the icing on the cake. The
Right.
cake was all of the character development things that we were going to instill in your child. And yes, they're going to be able to genuinely be able to protect themselves, but
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have to defend themselves mentally, emotionally, socially, way more than they're going to have to defend themselves physically.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was kind of my explanation in the beginning that, yes, we're going to teach your kids martial arts, but more than that, we're going to teach them how to protect themselves mentally, emotionally, socially, on top of physical. And
Yeah.
to most parents, that resonated with them. And that was the real reason that I was in the business and still in the business. But those were the real reasons that I was in the business in the first place, was because I wanted to make that impact on the kids. Now, that's not to say that other martial arts school owners aren't doing the same thing in my town, that that isn't one of the reasons. But what's going to differentiate you is when you can actually articulate those differentiators, those reasons why people should be purchasing from you, investing into your program for themselves and or their child, and then back that up on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I believe that most business owners, not just business owners, school owners, right, in general, gym owners, the restaurants, et cetera, I've noticed this. I love watching. Like I'm hooked on a new show called Resort Rescue, and there's a guy, and he goes into these different hotels and resorts, and he cameras up the entire place. He watches the employees, and he figures out what's wrong, and then he helps the owners get it all back and fix it. But a lot of times it's like mixed messages. Like, what is your brand? Like from the minute you walk through the door, or from your website to the door to the floor. Like, there's so many mixed messages. A lot of them are lost on people, and we haven't taken the time to really build a real good system to get that point across to our listeners, our readers, our students.
Yeah. So let's quickly define what we consider to be the unique strategic purpose. Basically, it's a statement that's going to explain how your business is really different from everyone else's inside of your market. Okay, it's going to tell your customers that that you can really meet their needs, and what actually makes you special. So your USP is going to essentially tell them why they should buy from you instead of buying from your competitors, especially stopping your competitors. And it's really going to be, it's going to take some hard work. It's going to take some creativity to come up with that compelling, unique strategic purpose. But it'll be one of the best decisions that you ever make. And one of the, even like I said, it's going to be hard work, but it's going to be one of the best hard work making decisions for yourself that you're ever going to do, because it's going to give you that compass, like you talked about, that everybody else will then now, okay, this is the direction that we're going. So not only is that going to benefit the students, the potential students that are coming in, it's going to benefit the current students, but also your staff members now have a purpose. That's why we call it unique strategic purpose, a purpose on why they're there working with you in order to make the difference. Is that clear enough?
It totally is clear. And I mean, I'll kind of add to that, like, and why do you need the USP, right? Like, that's important. I mean, the simple reason that you need a USP is that no matter what your product is, what you're selling, what marketplace you're in, there are other companies that are going to be competing with you, and you need to stand out in some way, right? You have to show people who you are and what makes you unique, because people, honestly, sadly, most people think all karate schools are the same, whether it be karate, kung fu, jiu-jitsu. The only thing now that I see a little bit of a separation is, do you do jiu-jitsu? Do you do BJJ? Like, people know that. And I think a lot of people associate BJJ and jiu-jitsu with the UFC and the Ultimate Fighting and MMA, mixed martial arts, right? So I think that you want to make sure that you can easily and clearly explain in a quick amount of time what makes you different. Like, why do you stand out? And you want your market to think of you, your school and you as the master instructor when they need products, right? Like, even if they're not buying from you, but they know about you, and someone says, hey, I want to put my kid in karate. I have this happen a lot on Facebook in my town, East Islip moms and dads. And, they'll say, we're looking for a karate school. And I'll have like 15 of my parents chime in. LI Ninjutsu, of course, it's like vultures, for going for the kill, because every school is on there now. And even ones that are not in my area, they're on there advertising their school from 3 towns over. But, you want to make sure that the people are thinking about you. And if you create a good USP, again, unique strategic purpose, it'll stick in their memory and you'll be above the rest, right? So what do you think?
Well, and if you think about this, what was it, back in the 80s? This just came to mind, but Pepsi.
Right.
Do you remember their USP? The
Ah,
choice for a new generation.
yes, I do. Yep.
I mean, how crazy is that, right?
Well, that's what scares me today in this day and age. Like, are we using vernacular and wording that is not resonating with the younger generation, with the like there's a great show right now. It's I love Gordon Ramsay's TV shows, and he has Master Chef, and it's called Generations, and he has like five different baby boomers, millennials, X generation, and they're all competing to cook and win the prize, but they all have different philosophies. Like when you talk about my generation, how we would think with tradition and family values and old school cooking methods, right? Compared to the new people who are more like I heard a comedian the other day, and he said when I used to talk to my grandfather, he would always tell me different stories, and the stories were interesting. He says, just think about in 10 years what the kids are going to be telling their grandchildren. Oh, look, here's my Instagram account. This is my meal that I ate, and that's another meal that I ate. And this is, like they don't really have those stories because everything is so instantaneous. But then again, we have to figure out how do we resonate with those generations, because they're the ones now that have 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds in our schools. So we have to figure out what's going on, and our USP can't be old school. Like we're an old school, we beat them up and yell at them type mentality. That was appealing 20 years ago, but now it may not be. Right. So you have to be real careful now, right? So your USP has to be really strategically thought out.
Agreed. So let's kind of break down maybe the elements of a good, unique strategic purpose,
Yes.
and really there. I think that there's about 3 in totality that actually make it a very strong one. So the first one is to really specifically address the needs of the market, the target market that you're looking for. So for instance, I know for us, I've always been a kid's school. I'm probably 97% kids. That's it.
So how many adults do you have in your school? Like roughly, like,
Well, like I can probably tell you offhand, if we have 10 to 12.
Really? And
yes.
And so most of your instructors and your helpers
out of 200 202 students.
So out of that, all of your instructors have grown up in your school, and then they just become adults or of adult age, and then they start helping and teaching and so on.
Or they move off to go to college, move away, right. And they're not there anymore. But yes,
right. But that's unbelievable. Like I know that. Like I have a friend. I just went out to breakfast with the group this morning, and my one good friend, he's got to have 45 active training black belts that have been with him from like 10 to 35 years. They're still there training. And you know what's the incredible thing is that they pay. They don't ask for a discount. Even when they don't come, they still pay. It's like their dedication and loyalty to the school. So sorry about getting a little off track there, but I was just wondering about that, with you. So
that's perfect.
You're a children's, teenager, young adult school.
Yeah, absolutely. So
nice.
Now, again, with that number one, addressing specific needs for the market that you want, the idea really is that your USP should be something that your market can't live without. I mean, it really solves a problem or makes their lives better or easier because of solving that problem. So, and we got to be careful, I think, as martial arts school owners, not that I don't want to help kids, but I also know that I cannot help everyone. And a phrase that I had learned from, Melanie Schumann at the time, she had this phrase where, we're just not equipped to be able to work with your child.
And
I thought, wow, that really takes the ownership, takes away the sting when I have to tell a parent that. And we've utilized that, ever since I learned that phrase. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so freeing. So we just got to be careful that, when we decide, what it is, the problem or problems that we solve, that we're not putting ourselves in a position that we're attracting things that we can't handle. So if you're getting a lot of, I hate to say it this way, but behavioral people, behavioral kids, and look, because I have a special needs program on Fridays,
Right.
I get a lot of in between where they really, they, it's really too low for them to be on the Friday class, but they're not up to where I would like them to be in order to be in the regular class.
Right. In the
And
inclusion class.
yeah, and that's been difficult having those conversations. But we have offered like private lessons, and some people are like, "Yeah, we'll just do the private lessons," and
Yeah.
we're making more money with the private lessons, So,
Yeah.
but just be careful with addressing the market needs and putting that into your USP. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a good friend and one of my clients, and he does a lot of work with handicapped and kids that are autistic and on the spectrum and so on. But that's a special skill. He's very knowledgeable. He's a doctor, retired Chinese medicine and acupuncture and herbology and all of that stuff. But he's very educated. That's not an easy market, because you do have to have a certain amount of expertise to deal with children in that, area.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that's
no, totally
cool.
agree.
So you agree a good USP is memorable, right? It has to stick in a person's mind so that you're the one that they're thinking of when they're thinking of karate, ninja,
Absolutely.
whatever, right?
Absolutely. And that would, that USP can be boiled down into, like, a lot of martial arts schools have, sayings or things that they do at the end of a class where
Right.
it's, you know what I mean? Like, it could be a chant, it could be whatever that could be boiled down to make it memorable.
Yeah.
But I think the third piece too is it really needs to connect to your buyers, right?
Right.
It really needs to connect to them.
That's everything. And this is where I'm struggling right now. So for example, in my Little and Mighty Warrior program, we have these characters. And Little is Eagle, Bear, and Wolf. And we have, I made these Eagle, Bear, and Wolf characters. And I have a book that I wrote about it, and they get stickers after every class and so on. Now, all of this is cool. The kids love the stickers. The parents love that they're getting them. But I think parents don't really know how to utilize those things, right? So they let us do what we got to do and they kind of support it, but they don't really know the power they have at their fingertips. So it's our job, and sometimes it's almost impossible to do, is how do we connect to the buyers emotionally? Like if they knew this Eagle, Bear, and Wolf, eyes of an eagle, ears of a wolf, heart of a bear character was something that they could use when they're not doing their homework or not cleaning their room or not listening. Like we have a thing that we say, eyes on who, right? And they go, eyes on you, sir. Well, we taught it to the parents the other day, and they're like, oh, I'm going to use that at home. I'm like, well, you should. We do it. You hear it. You see it. You should be using that if they're not listening to you at home, like what you got to. So we have to be better, I think, at communicating the benefits that we have in our school. And how do we do that? I don't know, dude. I try every which way I could possibly can. And still there's a void when it comes to connecting with certain people. But we got to do our best to connect to the buyers emotionally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the third part, like you just brought up with your USP, is it's got to connect emotionally with your buyers, the clients that you're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it speaks to the fears, the worries, the desires, also the frustrations that they have, and like for us, obviously there's probably a handful, maybe 6 or 7, things that our parents are looking for out of a martial arts program for their kids, whether it's they're being bullied and so they need to know how to defend them. Know how to defend themselves, to confidence, which that kind of crosses over there, to, it's funny, discipline. I'll have people say discipline, and then I need to clarify that. Okay, do you mean discipline as if they're unruly, or discipline like they need to focus? Oh no, it's different. Most of them are like, oh, it's discipline because they need to focus.
Right, they don't know.
Like, okay, yeah. So it's fleshing those things out, but it's sitting down with them and finding out those things. And look, one of the best phrases that I ever got, and I kind of just say, back in the day when I did this, I say I spent $2,000 for one phrase, but it was Grandmaster Hafner, and in I put this in the phone script. So remember we had Tommy Lee on, and I said that we still use your phone script. Well, I've altered some of the stuff in his phone script just based upon other coaching that I've gotten, and so I took this phrase from Grandmaster Hafner. And it's just, hey, tell me a little bit about Johnny. and
Yeah.
why you think martial arts is a good idea for him.
Yeah. I love it.
And all that, it's so simple, but all that phrases is they're going to tell you their fears, their worries, their desires, their frustrations.
Yeah.
And if you were to just do that, that's going to help you define what probably your unique strategic purpose should entail.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that if we could get like, I think we talked about this in the last few weeks, right? But they're talking about attention span, right? And
Yeah.
they're saying that, studies have shown that goldfish have an 8-second attention span, and kids from 12 to adults of all ages have a 6-second attention span. So we have less attention than a goldfish. So how do we capture their mindset? And what is the old saying? Like, if you're talking about the person, not talking at the person or talking about yourself, but you're talking about the kid or the client, they're going to listen more intently. So like what you just said, you have to make sure that it's about them, what benefits them, what's good for them, and why they don't want to quit, why they want to push, why they want to keep them going, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and then look, it's the old adage in marketing. It's problem, agitate, solve. So identify the problem, agitate it, and then solve it.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
but a USP, just breaking it down real simply, it needs to be short and sweet. It needs to convey what you mean in as few words as possible.
Right.
Second is it got to be memorable. People can easily recognize it and repeat it the next day after they've heard
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Number three is it actually has to be emotional. It's got to make an emotional connection
Yeah.
to your students, to your
Yeah.
target market. And then number four is it's got to be relevant. It's got to speak directly to that market's needs.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, number five is it's got to be clear. It's going to tell people exactly who you are and also why that you are different.
Yeah, and you know what you just said though, like when you said every one of them makes sense. Short and sweet is very important because people's attention span, right? But when you said memorable, emotional, relevant, and clear, all of those things are in working together. Like if you could get that all done and do it in a quick, short amount of time, you'll have a captured audience that's listening, and that's the hardest part, is to get them to listen.
Absolutely. And so look, give you guys some examples. You guys remember Domino's Pizza, right? So
Mhm.
you get what? What do you get from Domino's? Not just pizza, but what did they say? They say you get fresh hot pizza delivered to your door in what?
Yeah, under whatever something minutes, right? Or something
30 minutes or less, or it's
free.
yeah. I mean, that was a phenomenal unique strategic selling or unique strategic selling or
Yeah, that was
unique
selling.
Selling proposition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. And this many years later, I bet you if you asked, hey, what was that advertisement that Domino's used to do, or you got it for free? I bet you people would say, yeah, you get pizza, to your door in 30 minutes or less, or it's free.
Right.
They probably wouldn't remember the fresh hot, but they would just say, pizza.
Right.
Hallmark, when you care enough to send the very best.
Yes.
That's their USP.
Yeah.
How about FedEx? When you absolutely positively have has to be there when overnight.
Right. Yeah.
Because usually, if you're going to use FedEx, it's something that's going to be rushed. Because I don't know about you, I think of FedEx as rushing.
Right. Yeah.
And then M&M's. This has been it forever, but it's milk chocolate that melts in your
Mouth, not in your hands.
Yeah, like you can finish it. That's how simple. That's how clear. That's how memorable. And then if it's not relevant, then they end up switching it up.
Right.
So like going back to Pepsi. Pepsi was drink Pepsi. It's a choice of the new generation. At that time, when Michael Jackson was even advertising it, that's what was relevant. Now it's different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and it's not to say that your USP won't change over time. Most martial arts schools probably won't change too much, but the potential is there.
They
So
always
go ahead.
they always they'll update what's going on so that it is relevant. So what was done in the 20s is different than the 30s. Like even like Coca-Cola now has a green cola. Green, everything is green, right? Everything. So it's their new thing is green cola. So it's a beverage that people are eating, drinking because it's, the green word resonates with everybody.
Yes, absolutely. So your assignment, if you choose to do it, in order to help you create that USP, that unique strategic purpose, is really answer basically three separate questions for yourself. So one is, do you already have a USP? And if you don't, then that's a pretty one. And if you do, what is it? And then how effective is that USP for yourself?
Right.
That would be really easy to answer those questions for yourself. And so the next step to that then would be to really understand your target market. So in order to really have a really good, unique strategic purpose, you need to understand the people that are and the individuals that you're looking to target. And so that means that for yourself, we've got to understand, one, the people that we have inside of our studio, and two, maybe even the people that we are attracting, because
right.
They're one and the same in most cases, but not always. And
right.
So if you're an established studio, really take a survey of the individuals that are in your studio already, and really kind of decide, like, okay, these are the ones that I really, really enjoy working with. These are the ones that I'm going to work with, but I don't enjoy them as much. And then try to find out what the difference between them are in order to go, especially if the A group is where you really enjoy and you want more of the A's.
Right.
And the B group is, I'll take them, but some of them become A's, but most of them stay as B's. That's going to help you kind of understand a little bit about who you're looking for and what you want.
Yeah, and you know what I just noticed? I don't know if you noticed this on Spark, right? By the profile name, there's a star. And you could click on the star and highlight the star. And that star could be used for many different things. And I started to think, like, how can I utilize this? But I'm going to use it as a star to pick my most dedicated people. I'm going to star them so that I know who's always in class, who's always getting involved, who always comes to the parents' night outs or to the tournaments and so on and so forth. So Spark has that on there available, which is a kind of cool thing to have. But I like what you're saying, though. Like, there is some homework to be done. Like, everybody that listens to our podcast could take out certain little tiny things, little golden nuggets, as we call it, that could benefit them. However, I think that it would behoove people to really do this homework assignment. Like, do you have a USP and what is it? Write it down. What is that USP? And then, how effective do you think that it is? Is it working? Do people really know it? Like in my school, LI Ninjutsu Centers, it's not just kicking and punching, it's martial arts and beyond. So like I hear people actually quote when they're telling others about our school, they actually say that. Oh, no, it's not just kicking and punching. It's the martial arts, but it's way beyond that. Like they go into this thing because it's been drilled into their heads, and that's what we really want to get across.
Yeah, and that's short, that's sweet, it's memorable. It's emotional, it's relevant to what you're looking to, what you're trying to get done, and it's clear.
Yeah.
For us, it's our USP is creating future leaders on day one.
Right. I like it. That's great.
Short, sweet, memorable, emotional. Every parent wants their kid to be a leader. It's relevant and it's just clear.
That's great. I love it. Very, very cool. So we have a lot to cover, though. Do you want to like stop at a certain point and then the next podcast will have part 2? How do you want to do that?
Yeah, I think we can go over just maybe a couple other things, and then we can do that. Okay. I think if we just talk about right now before we move on to the next part, it's just really understanding your target market.
Yeah. Remember, we got a lot of goldfish out there. A lot of people out there, like at a certain point, I think probably they're shutting down, right? They're like, okay, this is great. let me move on. But I love it. Let's go over this
Well, no,
next
we can
section.
pick that up on the next one. We can pick that up on the next one. We can move into that step on the next one. Studying the demographics, observing your market, knowing them in order to help you really come up with that unique strategic purpose. So let's leave it at that. Let's leave it at, hey, look, guys, do you already have a USP? If so, what is it? And then how effective do you really think that is? And then put it under the microscope for basically anatomy of the unique strategic purpose. Is it short and sweet? Is it memorable? Is it emotional? Yes. Is it relevant? And is it clear?
Yeah, because this is only about 35 minutes. So let's say, okay, we'll end it now. We'll do a second one, but I urge you to go back, listen, take notes, or make some changes in your school and actually do the process.
Yeah, and I'm going to leave you with this too. I mean, everybody knows this phrase of failing to plan is planning to what? Fail, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So when you create this unique strategic purpose for yourself, it's almost not a guarantee that you're going to be 100% successful, but it is a guarantee that you're going to be 100% focused on what you're about, who you're looking for, and that in and of itself is going to help you attract the right buyers for your school. And it's certainly going to make you a lot happier when you are teaching out on the floor, because you're going to have more and more of the right people coming to you, and it will create this filter that when you are interviewing these individuals to potentially be students and their families, you'll know right away whether or not they're going to fit into that culture, that that unique strategic purpose, that culture that you're wanting to create or that you've created.
I love it. Awesome.
All right, sir.
Cool. All right, you have an awesome day. That's awesome, and I hope everyone enjoys what they heard, and they will take notes and put it into their schools.
Yeah, and then on our next episode, we'll just cover a lot more, and I don't know that we'll be even able to complete all of it in the next episode, but we'll see what we can do.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. LeadHunterMedia.com, your online digital marketer and content provider. Academy Kings BJJ Growth Consulting and Management Group at GrowMyAcademy.com. SparkMembership.com, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. GetKarateStudents.com, a martial arts growth consulting company for all your systems. AddHealthCoaching.com, helping school owners create a whole nother revenue stream for their school. We will see you next time.